Hello everyone! This video is for those of you who want to learn more about what the COVID situation has been like in Nicaragua. First, I need to give you some context. I've been here for the entirety of the COVID pandemic, but what I experience isn't the same as what all people here in Nicaragua experience. So what I'm going to tell you is from my experience as a person who has a lot of luxuries that most people don't have. As far as logistics go, there's a couple things you need to understand about the COVID situation here in Nicaragua. First off, the only kind of control or law or forcing the government's doing is that all airlines that arrive have to have negative COVID tests within the past 72 hours for every single person on board and every staff member. And the fact that they require it for every staff member means that it's very likely that whatever carrier you choose to book your flight to Nicaragua to, for example, if you use one of the cheaper options such as Spirit, it's very likely that they will cancel your flight like 2 weeks, 3 weeks before it happens without very much notice to you, because wasn't enough demand for them to make any money at all, or they lose so much money because in Nicaragua, in order to get a COVID test, you have to pay $160 for each COVID test, right? So a lot of these airlines will just cancel on you. And this means that it's essentially more expensive to travel to Nicaragua, but it's getting easier now. It's also important to know that when you arrive here, you can supply a negative COVID test from another entity, another health entity, and it's fine. You have to do that. So you don't have to pay that $160. But in order for you to leave, you will have to get one of those negative COVID tests, and that will cost you $160. So it effectively it adds a $160 charge every time you leave the country, basically. So this also makes it more expensive for the end user, which is you. When it comes to actually being here, I'd say about half people wear masks in the city, half people don't. It really depends. You can be in situations where everyone's wearing a mask. Like if you're in a building, everybody's going to be wearing a mask there. But if you're not in a building, then you're going to see people in the street who aren't wearing a mask. You're also going to see people in the street who are wearing masks. You also see people who have full-blown face shields and protection and that kind of thing. Most people here don't have the luxury of not working. People here are really good at figuring out how to earn money by selling stuff and that kind of thing. People here are really good at using stuff that might go to waste and getting by. But because most people eat with money they got today or yesterday or maybe a week ago, they just don't have the luxury of not working like people in the United States do. Most people don't have things if they don't need them. Most people don't have air conditioning. Most people don't have a washing machine. These things aren't necessary because with a properly designed house and adequate water supply, you don't really need it. Right? And that's the circumstance a lot of people live in. They only get things when they really, really need them. Personally, it's been really calm. Super calm from what I can tell. I don't go out and travel a whole lot, but I go to grocery stores. I get the basic necessities of my life and the things that I need, and it's very calm. It's pretty standardized, and it's been this way for a while. There's not any part really where the government forces you. There's not that much ruling from the government about COVID. Almost nothing was done to force people to be any certain way or wear masks or that kind of thing. It's pretty stable here, to be honest. Like, if you go out to get something at a grocery store, if you go into a building, someone's gonna scan your arm to check your temperature, but they do it so often they're not really gonna look at the number in most cases. Like, it's purely just, it's common practice here, for at least in the city, right? I live in the city. I'm not talking about rural Nicaragua. It's totally different in some places in rural Nicaragua. What I'm talking about is what it's like in Managua, in the city, okay? You don't really go into a building without getting your hands sprayed with alcohol and getting your temperature checked. Every building you enter. Like, if you go into the market, then that doesn't necessarily happen, but certain people, depending on who owns the stall and that kind of thing, depending on how they feel about their own risk and everything, they will make sure that when you enter, there's alcohol. Most of the time you handle cash. People have alcohol. I'm not saying everybody. And I'm also not saying that this is perfect, but what I'm trying to get at is this is how it's been here for ages. Like, at this point, it's been that way for, like, at least 6 or 7 months. It's not new, and it's not gonna change. Like, people here aren't going to get vaccines soon. That it'll happen eventually, but those are luxuries that most people here don't have. And COVID is definitely killing people, but it's important to understand that there isn't as much that can be done about it here, because in the US and in these other developed nations, they have the luxury of being able to provide their citizens with incomes or alternatives or loans or something, whereas here it's really complicated. Like, I thought US citizens don't like paying tax, but people in Nicaragua really hate paying taxes, like way more than US people. And that's about it. The main things that you need to keep in mind if you're traveling to Nicaragua during this COVID pandemic, as of now, which is in May of 2021, is that when you leave Nicaragua, you're going to have to pay $160 to get a negative COVID test. And when you are here, you will have to have a mask in order to enter a building. Your temperature will be scanned at the entrance to buildings, and your hands will often be sprayed with alcohol at any point that you are going to a cashier, entering a building such as a bank or a grocery store or whatever. When you go into the market, you can expect that some stalls take a lot of precautions and some other stalls take almost none. Alright, and if you guys want any other kind of videos, right now I'm just focused on making tutorials on this channel. I don't have any plans of making more Nicaragua content, but if you guys like specific videos that you want me to make, then tell me and I'll make them when I have a chance. Alright? Thanks for watching. See you next time. Ciao!